Welcome, everybody, to the Melissa Killeleagh Show. I am your host, Melissa Killeleagh, and we're here live in the Finger Lakes 1 TV studio on September 18th. It's 2 o'clock. I'm here in studio with a couple of guests, and we also have an interview we'd like to share with you from a couple of weeks ago as well. So we're going to take you on a little journey today, and as some of you know, I like to wrap these episodes around a concept or a quote or some kind of theme. So I'll share that in just a moment. But for those of you who don't know me, I call myself a mompreneur, which is basically, I'm balancing the busyness of being mom and working from my phone for my network marketing business. And it's so funny because I realize I always wear jewelry representing things in my life. So this is the symbol from my company. And then this is actually my son's initials, JNM, Jack Nicholas Massa. It's Tiffany's dog tag that he gets to have when he's 16. And then I also keep these affirmations around me at all times too. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Fearless to remind me that I am. And then I've got one that says, I got you, which is something I always say to my son. And he actually says to me now the first thing when he wakes up in the morning, which is pretty cute. So my theme for today is around this quote that I've heard a million times. I'm sure you've heard it too. But I heard it again in this book I'm reading, High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard, which, by the way, if you hop online and find his website, he's actually giving away copies for free right now. You just pay for shipping. But the quote is this: don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Howard Thurman. And that's what today's show is all about. I got a couple of people here who come alive with the work that they do. People who are living their passion and purpose in life. And I can't wait to share them with you. So the first guest that we have is definitely a woman who's making the world a better place out there, and her name is Tara Montoney. She's the children's librarian here in the Seneca Falls Library, and someone passed her name along to me years ago, and a mutual friend, and we never really had a chance to connect, but our lives are also in different places. Fast forward a number of years, and when I had my son, I went online to meetup.com to look for moms groups, and she was the leader for one of them, but it was kind of like a defunct group, and it was just still on there. So I decided to reach out to her personally, and I will tell you straight up, this woman has changed my life in a million ways, not the least of which is the fact that her son, who is 12 years old, took the babysitter course and is my mother's helper, so he comes over to hang with my son, and I often share pictures with her of little moments that I catch when he's outside reading to him, or just little things that he's doing that definitely reflect the wonderful mama that he has. I'm sure his dad is great too. But without further ado, here is Tara Montoney. Tara, it's so great to have you in the studio today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I love, Tara, is that we share in common the fact that we are not native Seneca Falls residents. So I would love for you to share a little bit about the journey that got you here.
Okay, so I am originally from Western Massachusetts. Did not have a background in library science. I was originally a teacher of the deaf. And so it's just funny. I was just talking about this to somebody this weekend, how the journey of your life changes according to the people that you meet. And if you had told me, years and years and years ago that I would have gotten my master's in deaf education, I would have said absolutely not. And I met a man who sort of just turned my entire life in that direction. It was a wonderful part of my life. And then I knew right away that when I had my own children that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. So I was home for quite some time. And then, when my children started going to school, I knew that I wanted to get back into something, and, things just kind of worked out. And the children's librarian who was at the Seneca Falls Library at the time was leaving to have another baby. And so I said, I think that's something that is totally in my wheelhouse that I could do. And it has been 7 years of really just wonderful, wonderful change. It has gotten me more connected to this community because, like you said, I'm not from here. So sometimes this is it's a close-knit community, and sometimes it's tough to be a transplant here. But the work that I have been able to do through the library has really helped define who I am. It's also really hard. If you're a mom out there who stayed at home when your children were little, and then you try to re-enter the professional world, it's not always easy. It's not always welcoming with open arms. So when I took this position, I was very lucky. And I was able to sort of develop all these new fun. It was kind of a blank slate for me. There wasn't a ton when I was asked to come on. They really gave me the freedom to do what I wanted. And so I went crazy. I started planning programs like it was nobody's business. And I was able to really, really help develop the partnerships within the community of different organizations, all of the schools. So I started doing lots of outreach programs. And I still do outreach programs in the schools. And I'm really proud of the partnerships that I have fostered just in the community, because that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, you want your public library and your school district and local businesses and agencies to have a great working relationship. And I'm really proud of the partnerships that we've made there.
So I'm proud of the partnerships, and I don't even know all of them. What I do know is that when you ask people in the community, anything that has to do with children and families, like something somehow ties back to your name, and it is so much of the programming that goes on. And I have to say, like, there's a little bit of your heart and soul in so many of your programs in terms of like your story. And I didn't even realize it until now, because even the connectedness. So yes, when you're a stay-at-home mom or a work-from-home mom and you're trying to get out there and make connections and not feel so isolated, I can say that without a doubt, some of the programs that you've put on have been the places where I've met some of my greatest friends at this point. So one of our mutual friends I met over an adult coloring evening. And another one of my friends I met at Mommy and Me yoga class that you put on, and that was with Courtney Rowe. And yeah, it just, it all ties back to you. And it's funny to me because I think about even the littles that I know in this community, and they all know Miss Tara, right?
They do.
They also know Miss Martha.
They do.
So for those of you who don't know, actually, Tara, if you'd tell people about that
I
program.
absolutely would love to. And there's a funny story. So Miss Martha is a dog, although Miss Karen, her owner, often gets called Miss Martha. But it's cool. So a funny little story. Shortly after I started at the library, a little over 7 years ago, Miss Karen was a Red Cross volunteer at the time, and Miss Martha, the dog, was also a Red Cross volunteer. And somebody had given me her name and said, that might be fun to do some read with Martha programs at the library. Dogs are great listeners. Kids really respond to dogs. We had never done anything like that before. So I reached out to Miss Karen, and the story goes that she almost did not return my phone call. She was not really actively looking for another piece sort of to add to her life puzzle at the time. And she didn't know me, and she didn't necessarily think it was a great fit. Her gut said, I should probably just meet Tara. And then the rest is history. So we've been working together for 7 years. Miss Martha comes to all of our story times at the library. So she comes to our Wednesday morning story time. She comes to our evening story time that we do once a month. She comes to a lot of the outreach programs that we do. And then every other Tuesday, she comes in the afternoon for a Read with Martha, which is kind of just a casual story time where kids can pet her and lay on her and hold her paw and read her stories. And it's been amazing, and it's been really fun. Every year we celebrate Martha's birthday at the library. We don't celebrate my birthday, but we do celebrate Martha's birthday. This past year, we had over 100 people show up for her birthday party.
Oh my gosh.
It brings tears to my eyes.
She's a legacy.
She's a legacy for sure. And when people in the community think of the library, I mean, I hope they think of me, and I know they think of Miss Martha, and all of the fun programs that we do there.
Speaking of which, can you tell our viewers where they can find all the information on all of the programs that are available?
Absolutely. So you can go to our website. So that's www.senecafallslibrary.org. There's an online calendar there. So all of our programs are there. All of our flyers you will find there. We also have the Seneca Falls Library Facebook page. You can find everything up to date there. But if you come into the library, there's a kiosk in the main hallway that has all of the flyers and a calendar of all the upcoming programs. You can always stop in and grab all of the programs that, seem fitting for you and your child.
I love it. Awesome. So one last thing that I want to talk about with you, because I think about you and I think about this all the time. You're like, what is she talking about? So one of the concepts in the last couple of years that has really been at the core of my being is this idea that I don't want to just live out the length of my life. It kind of feels like so often we're sort of racing through life. And the concept is really about living out the width and the depth of what we're here to do, which is part of the quote that I started with. So what does that mean to you in your life? Because I watch you run around like a mad person, but everywhere you are, I feel your presence. It's not as if you're there and you're not connecting with people.
Right. You're
very deeply engaged.
So this is what I try to do. There are people, I see people who I know who are very talented and who want to sort of have a hand in lots of different pots, right? And I love that. And when you have something to offer, it's really beneficial for you to sit on, lots of different committees and try to make a difference in our local community or bigger. But I think that for me, and I know my limitations, I like to choose a certain few things that are super meaningful to me and, put my time into fewer things, but things that I can really dive into and just make it meaningful. So I don't want to go somewhere just to be there. I want to pick a handful of organizations that are really, within my heart and that I really feel like I can make a difference somewhere. And that's what I've done. I have a family. I have a husband who travels, and I want to be there for my family just as much as my job and the other things that I choose to be part of that are, volunteer based. So, being a mom is always a balancing act. And I try to keep it real. And just pick the things that are most important to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. And I think there have been several episodes where I've talked about my own journey in motherhood and also in running a business, where I've taken the time to really separate, like, what are society's expectations of what I'm supposed to do here and what is external, and let it go. Right. And figure out what that internal navigation system, i.e. my own values, my own passions, the things that make my life feel meaningful to me, and work from there. So if that's a word of advice to everyone out there, there you go. So thank you. Awesome. And the next guest, again, is another great example of really living out passion and purpose. He is the husband of a top leader in my industry and company, but he is also, on his own, an incredible DJ, father, author, and speaker. And he recently wrote a book called Get Up, and the subtitle is encouraging you to attack life. So without further ado, we're going to turn this over to Mark Hayford. I hope you enjoy him as much as I did. All right, everybody. I am here today with Mark Hayford, special guest. He is being featured as one of the men making a difference in our world. And I wanted to bring him here today for all of you to hear his story and his perspective, because I recently had the opportunity to read his book, Get Up, Encouraging You to Attack Life. You can buy it on Amazon. This book really was a game changer for me, and it was probably like a 2 to 3 day read because I couldn't put it down. It was kind of like if you're gonna binge watch Netflix, you can binge read this incredible book and know that it's going to change your life. So, Mark, I know that you are an incredible author from having had that experience. You're a speaker, you're a DJ. You are the other half to a very special woman in our company, Arbonne, as well. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you would share a little bit about yourself, we would love to know, who is Mark Hayford?
Wow. Well, thank you so much. First of all, you said so many nice things there. I don't know if my head can get, if you can see it all, because it blew up here with can I fit in the screen? No, that's great. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And, it's interesting. The whole, you said incredible author. And I just want to say thank you, because that's the first thing that I ever put out on paper, and we were talking a little bit off the air before we went on. And to me, it's humbling. It's mind boggling. It's goosebumps when you have all this info, something to say, this idea, and you put it out into something tangible, and you can go, okay, on page 42, and people actually are vibing on it and they're benefiting from it. And it's real. And it's insane, because I think it all goes back to mindset. And the mindset was, I was told why this would not be successful, that I don't have a blog, I don't have a vlog, although I have a YouTube channel, that I don't have a following in that sense. I'm not even on Twitter yet. You've never authored anything before. I actually went into one bookstore, and I was told by the owner of the bookstore, I introduced myself, and I was told by another friend of mine who's a local author, you got to go to this one particular place because it's a slam dunk. They have a lot of local authors, the whole thing. I said, awesome. So I went in. By the way, the book went #1 in 4 hours in Amazon's self-help category.
I saw that.
Insane. I thought the book would do well, but I didn't think that well. And I told you that because it's part of the story. I went into this place and I spoke to the owner, and what I found is that in this arena, like any other arena, whether it's sports or whether it's network marketing or whether it's in my DJ world or whether it's in my coaching world or it's whatever, there can be a lot of ego everywhere. You get it when you're in the supermarket, you get it when you get introduced to whoever, and that I think needs to be stripped away. I think we need more humility. When I went into the store and I handed the book to the owner, and she took it from my hand, and she's and she's doing this as I'm speaking to her. She's not even making eye contact. And then she starts doing this. No. No what? Like, no, you don't like the book. No, you don't want to talk to me anymore. What's no? And she said, and she handed it back to me. She goes, no one's going to buy this book. And I said, oh, okay. Why is that? And she said, well, my demographic here is middle-aged women. And I said, okay. I said, okay, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I left. And what I didn't tell her was that my circle is middle-aged women, number one. Yeah, and number two, she just said no to a #1 book.
Right.
Because she literally judged the book by its cover, literally.
Right.
And I think that's a lesson going into this. So when you talk about who is Mark Heyford, Mark Heyford's a former professional wrestling referee, right, on international shows. I'm a current DJ. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces. My wife and I have a successful network marketing business where she's at the top of the company. I'm now a best-selling author, which is crazy. I'm a football coach, and I think I'm a smorgasbord, and that's what I try to encourage people to do. The name of the book is Get Up, Encouraging You to Attack Life. It's not like kind of float around, show up, think about it, and see what happens, man. It's like it's being on purpose, because here's the thing. This could be my last day. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Did I benefit people? Did I share? Did I leave a legacy? Or did I just take? Was I constantly taking? Was I worried about my next meal or the next season 4 of whatever crappy show I'm not going to remember anymore on Netflix, right? Did it make a difference? Like that's what we got to be mindful of. This is not our practice life. It's right. Not. So we got to stop playing with these low, false self-limitations. That's what I try hammering in the book. And I try to do it in a way where a lot of people can understand. Just the way I'm speaking to you right now is the exact style of how I try to put these words on paper. And editors tried to change it. And I said, no, that's not going to happen, because I want to be spoken to the way I want to speak to someone. Because we are so desensitized, we're so distracted, we're so comfortable, we're so freaking lazy today. And it's easy because this is fun, and this is the last thing I look at when I go to bed. It's the first thing I pick up in the morning, and I can scroll on social media for 5 hours and lose my day, right? In between comparing myself to other people. Stop. Go do the best you. That's what we gotta. I'm yelling at you. I'm sweating. I'm sorry. But but that's who Mark Hayford is. That's what we got going on here.
And I appreciate that. And I agree. The writing style is very conversational, but it speaks directly to you in this very direct call to action kind of way. And there's a feeling as if like, okay, if I don't take this call to action, I'm literally not listening to myself. It's not that I'm not listening to you. I'm not listening to myself. That's how the dialogue goes with this book. And I loved it.
Thank you.
So I have a question for you though, because you said, people said you wouldn't be successful. This book's not going to sell, that kind of thing. You don't have a blog, that kind of thing. But you do have a regular podcast, right? Because that was another way that I had really kind of been following your message the past like year or two, is like listening to your interviews. And I feel like it was Monday mornings with
Mark Hayford. Yeah, thank you. And that is still a channel. That is still a thing. And that whole show started coming out. And if you guys want to go subscribe, watch, whatever, instead of binge watching again, whatever, go binge watch that. What's incredible with that, it's not the podcast is incredible or the show's incredible. It's the guests that came on. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to showcase people that have success and have found success in whatever their niche is. Mm-hmm. And what does that look like? How do the winners think? What do they read? When do they go to bed? How do they exercise? Do they exercise? When do they find time? We all get the same 365, 24/7, right? What are you going to do with it? What does that look like? So, on that show, you have scientists, you have Olympic qualifying athletes, former NFL players, executive national vice presidents, the guy who defeated cancer without medicine. Like, that is what the show is. There is an entire new, and it's funny you brought it up because I wasn't even thinking to go in that direction because we're trying to be respectful of time here. In September, I'm going to be dropping a brand new season with this, and this one is going to be focused on youth. And I have the #1 track star in the world. I got the #5 kicker for high school football in the nation. I got the kid who's #6 in the planet in robotics. It is just, and it's talking to these young kids, so other young people too, because listen, I do a lot of work in schools. I do assemblies. I talk to these kids. They hit me up on Insta and Snap and everything. And they're either in one of two spectrums. There's hardly like a middle ground. They're the next millionaire rock star walking on the red carpet, a zillion followers, and they haven't even done anything yet. They're just the recipient of too many hugs or not enough hugs. Like, you got to put in the work. That's #1. And then #2, I see that some of them are so beaten down and downtrodden and just low mindset right out of the gate. They don't even give themselves a chance. So I try to bridge that gap, strip down the entitlement and bring more empowerment. And I think the kids need that. So I want to showcase and it's just so many of these bright young minds that are on the right track need to be showcased. So a kid in Minnesota could be sitting there and see the kid who's the wrestler in Kansas City who's going to be on the show and go, wow, I want to do that. What does he do? And tap into that. And I find that when you talk about having a following or whatever, I think it's about following your passion. Mm-hmm. And I think it's about once you listen to, you quiet your mind, you listen to your heart, you listen to just, what that thing is, whatever that thing is, you go follow that thing. And I just felt that for years. And I think I'm not good at a lot of things, and I'm okay with that, because the things I am good at, I think I'm really good at. And one thing that I'm really good at, it's connecting people, and it's showcasing a mindset. And that's how that show started. And again, it all, right? It's attacking life. It's not thinking about it, because if I was thinking about it, it's 3 years have gone by and I haven't done anything yet. So that's how it goes. Shell Jackson's on. All right. So
Shell Jackson, you have just joined us for our interview for the podcast.
It's Michelle. It's Miss Jackson if you're nasty. All right. So
you're a little bit early. You're a little bit early, girl. So you're going to be on the Melissa Killeleagh show, just so you know.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Howdy. How are you?
We are just wrapping up a podcast interview, my friend, if you want to just listen in for another minute or two.
Oh, how do you like that?
Let's do it. And special guest star, Michelle Jackson. All right.
It's so good. So Mark, back on that note, it is all about the passion, right? It's about following that internal pull, right? And I truly believe that the people who are living their purpose on this planet and following their passion are the ones who are giving permission to other people to do the same and to get off of that hamster wheel of life that like has you thinking like, oh, I've just got to do this thing right here. I've got to follow this course that has been prescribed by society. We've got to do this thing, right? So one of the things that I love about the fact that this next season is going to be focusing on youth is it's not just about inspiring other youth. I'm sure you've thought about this. It's also giving a gift to my generation, to the baby boomers, to everyone, to know that our planet can be handed over to some real game changers and to have faith in that. Because a lot of people, I think, they see this next generation coming up, they see the millennials and they go like, oh, they don't want to work, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do that. And I'm like, I don't think that's it. I think it's that they don't want to do it the way we did it, right? They'd rather live in a yurt in the middle of the woods than plug into the system sometimes. We're
seeing it in trends in business today, right? The malls are shutting down. They're ghost towns. People don't want to go out. Business is being different. You're states away from me. I've had on my show where I have people that are in literally other parts of the planet. It's a different day for them because we're in different time zones. This is how we do things today. And I think it's hard when we're talking millennials and we're talking Gen Y because they have no one to guide them. Who's going to do it? Gen X, the boomers, they don't know how to do this. We're all learning and stepping into this technology thing at the same time. Who's getting it is Gen Z. That's the young kids. Those are the kids that when I'm going and doing school assemblies, they're the ones that are the early years of high school and the middle school and the young. They're getting it. What they need is they need to not do what we do as adults, and that's compare. This is dangerous and it's powerful and it's awesome. It's what you make of it. So when you're using it to see that you're comparing your back office with everybody's front stage, you lose all the time. You can't do that. You got to guard your mind. You got to be able to do that. And what I like explaining to these kids and adults, I just deliver it differently when I talk to them. You're special. You matter. You're important. You're different. Embrace that. Everybody has a specific energy, purpose, reason, and that has to happen. And a lot of the kids, they don't get it at home. They're not hearing it from their coaches. They're definitely not getting it, in the schools, unfortunately. And I know that because I'm in the schools and I see it. And what we're feeding a lot of the youth today is what we don't want them to do. Right. We don't want bullying. We don't want drugs. We don't want suicide. We don't want vaping, but we have suicide rates are up. Vaping's rampant. They do it in locker rooms. They do it in front of their teachers getting high, and the teachers don't realize it because now it's called juuling, and it looks like a USB drive. We have, bullying is now migrated out of I'm going to beat you up at 3 o'clock behind the church to cyberbullying, which is even worse because that doesn't go away. It's on a server somewhere forever. Okay. So, but what are they hearing? They're hearing bullying. They're hearing suicide. They're hearing vaping. They're hearing smoking. They're hearing drugs, and it's getting hardwired. When I was in high school, this is what I did. I played football. I played baseball. I was the school president. I was on the yearbook. Okay, I was a state champion weightlifter. I didn't do drugs. I wasn't. We didn't have vaping then, but I didn't smoke. I didn't do all that because I was too busy. I was focusing on goals and doing things that I wanted to do. We got to start focusing on the good. If I wanted to lose weight, I'm not going to focus on fast food and getting 3 hours of sleep. I'm going to focus on a regimen. I'm going to focus on working out. I'm going to focus on what I'm putting in my body. If I want to make money and get rich, I'm not going to focus on poverty. I'm going to focus on wealth, and I'm going to focus on the attributes of the successful people. So if that makes sense with that logic, why are we pumping into these kids what we don't want them to do? But how about what do we do want them to do? Why don't we start doing more of that? And that's my mission, and that's what I do. And I do it with adults, and I do it with kids, and that's my passion. So using platforms like this, and I want to thank you for showcasing it, that's how this message gets out.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful for you. I'm going to have to share a previous podcast episode with you too, from this gentleman, Hassan Stevens, who has a similar kind of message, using a little bit different platforms. So he's using hip hop culture,
love it,
entrepreneurship to get to kids in Syracuse. And he's opening up a center for youth entrepreneurship and really teaching financial literacy and all these other things, because the focus in their culture has always been
financial literacy. When my oldest boy first started high school, I went in there to go, and we spoke to the counselor about what classes and I looked at the back of the sheet in small print, the electives. That's what they should be learning. Yeah. That's what they need. Yeah. How do you pay off a mortgage? Should you get a mortgage? How do you balance a checkbook? What is a checkbook? Should you even open a credit card? How do you use it? How do you not use it?
Should I take out $160,000 in student loans if the starting salary in my field is $30,000 a year?
And as I was ready to come over the desk at the counselor just kind of looked at me and was like, I know. But how about ancient Asian civilization from the 1400s? Okay, let's take that for class number 3. No offense, Asian civilization of the 1400s. Who cares? That's good stuff. You could sprinkle that in. You know, I wasn't great at science. I got a B in it because I valued the work, the mindset, the discipline that carries over into my businesses and what I'm doing today when I don't feel like it or want to. I didn't feel like doing science, but I got to be in it. But that's okay, because I wasn't good in science, because I don't want to be a scientist. You see what I mean? So let's teach real life skills to these kids. I just, you know what? Adjust your volume, people. I'm yelling.
Hey, I feel it. I feel it. And here's the thing. Before we get the rest of our guests jumping on for our call that's coming up, to wrap up the podcast interview, here's the one thing I want to ask you, Mark, and this is always in my heart, and it's one of the things I could talk about with people forever. What is your legacy going to be?
Well, that's a tricky question, because I could give you some blanketed answer here, but what is the legacy? I don't know yet, because we're not done yet. There's so much to do, and I think if at the whatever age you are, if you've already defined your legacy, maybe you're done growing. I don't know. The other side of that is some people have, from a very early age, tapped into that passion. They said, I am this. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So I think when you're talking my legacy, I would hope that people would speak kindly of me, because if not, I'm going to come back and haunt you. No, I'm kidding. I won't. But I think when we're talking legacy, I think I don't have an answer for you, because we're not done yet. Again, I believe life is a smorgasbord, and you got to eat, baby. You got to try different things to see what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you like, what you love, what you don't like. I do believe in this. I do believe in lifting others up, and I do believe successful people, strong people, positive people will. And I believe there's enough sunshine for all of us to get a tan. We don't need to fight over it at the beach, right? So I believe it's about shining you and helping others shine themselves. Yeah. So I don't know if that's about legacy, but that's a message, and I believe
that is a legacy in and of itself, And here's the thing: this is what I'm excited about. I feel like if I were to take a snapshot in time, we're just watching you get started, right?
I believe that, and I appreciate that, and and here's the thing: you see some of these people that are overnight successes. There's a new book that's out now, "Girl, Wash Your Face." Mm-hmm. Great book, right? It's the hot new one. And someone interviewed her and said, and I don't want to start throwing names or anything, but the author of that book was interviewed and said, well, where did you come from? And the response was, I've been doing this for 13 years. There's been a lot of work that goes into this. You just didn't pop up and show up and become fabulous. Right. That's the biggest lie that's told that's out there today. Another message for the kids. You got to put in the work. What you're seeing here, what we're talking about, the message in here, that's over a decade. Yeah. Over a decade of the Think and Grow Riches, of going through the life experiences, of doing all these different things, the books on the bookshelf. I mean, you got to put in to get out. So people need to have patience with their game, but go hard at it. Go hard. If you spent 1 hour a week, that would translate into thousands of hours over the next few years of personal growth, of investing in yourself. What's an hour? Yes. We waste it We waste it, man. You got it. You get one life. It's not the practice life. Dig in.
Yeah, I hear you on it. And here's the thing. It's just like your book. This message, like you said, came over decades, right? But it was ready to come when it came. The overnight was that you were willing to listen and lay it down, right? Same thing with Rachel Hollis. Like, I've been listening to her on, different interviews and podcasts for years. She's been doing the work for a really long time. It doesn't happen overnight. So I'm grateful for that message too. And Mark, it's been a pleasure.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I will definitely make sure that we put in a link so that people can subscribe to your YouTube channel, so that
Awesome.
people can also connect up with your book and get a copy, because if you don't have it, you definitely need it. And for all of my viewers out there who are plugged into school systems, please make sure students are getting these books. Like, this is a game changer. So again, thank you, Mark. I'm going to stop the recording.
You're awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I'm not sure how many more times I could say it, but go get the book. Mark is absolutely fabulous. So quick story about him. As I mentioned before, his wife is a top leader in our industry and in our company. And so she was able to retire him early, which he talks about. And he's on this quest to figure out what his calling is in life. And this is clearly one of them. Like, this is a man who is definitely meant to be in front of people and inspire people to their greatness and to live their best life. So I hope you enjoyed that interview. So next we're going to transition to actually a woman whose business is right here in the same building as the Finger Lakes One TV studio. And she's another great shining example of how to live your purpose and your passion. And it's funny that I would use that description, because her business is actually Shine Your Light Counseling. And we are here in the studio with Jaime Lamanna. Jaime, thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we were listening to Mark, you shared a few things about your connection to tarot, which kind of brings this whole show full circle. So I would love if you would just share with your viewers, because it's funny how this unfolded, the two of you, your connection, and also some of your own sentiments about the work that tarot does in our community.
Yeah, when she was talking, I wanted to interject, because the library is such a great program in our community, and I really just want to encourage all the parents out there to really get your kids going to the programs, utilizing what we have. It's a free program. It's a great chance for the kids to be around other kids. And I've known Tara, we go way back to when my kids were young, and she used to help me out and watch them. And when I was working full time, and she made such a difference in my little girls' lives that even after she stopped watching them, they of course wanted to keep going to the library. But the thing about Tara is that she makes each kid that goes to the library feel like they're so special and unique, and just she makes them feel cared for. So I mean, what's better than just making, having someone else in your kid's life besides parents or teachers that just makes them feel like that they're loved and they're special, and she really has a knack for doing that. So I just really encourage other moms and dads to get your kids there.
Yeah. And I, after having lunch just last week, was it last week?
Yeah,
last week. I can understand why that is so special to you too, because in your counseling work, that's so very much of what you're focusing on, which is like each individual person's gift and uniqueness in this world.
Yeah.
So I'd love if you would just share a little bit more about how you found your way to your passion, your purpose in Shine Your Light Counseling.
Yeah, and you know what? It's been a long road for me. I think in any successful woman's life or person's life, we can each have our setbacks and things that we could share, our failures, things that haven't turned out for us, things we put our energy in and just didn't work out. So I definitely have my share of those, but I was blessed a few years ago to be able to just take a leap of faith. Basically, it's what it is. The program I was working in, the grant money just ended, and so I was left without a job and trying to search and find out where I was going to end up next. And I just started talking to some other women in the community, actually, that were self-employed entrepreneurs, and just started encouraging me. So I definitely had some people in my support system that were encouraging me. I think we all need those cheerleaders at now and then. So I just started doing it on my own, and things just lined up and And God is really good, and it was the right timing for me. It was the right place in my family's life. So I just found some office space, started doing it just slowly, and then it just kept growing. And I wanted to stay in my community because I really believe in the community that I live in and work in. And I had other opportunities to go to the cities, but I really wanted to stay here. And my heart is drawn to more of the underserved population. And so I see all varieties of people here, from 2 to 92. And the thing that I love about it is that no day is the same, that I'm able to just give my all in the moment I'm with someone. And we talked a bit about just being able to be present, and how that is such a vital part of just our life in general, is being able to be in the here and now with someone. And so when someone comes into my office, that's them taking an hour out of their week to just be present, to focus on themselves, to just feel supported by someone else. And the message that I send to every client that comes in is that you are not alone. It may feel like it sometimes. It may feel like no one gets you, no one understands what you're going through. But I say, you are not alone. I'm here with you in this journey. We're going to get through this. And I use the word we're. And so I told you before when we talked that my big word for the month is just with, right? I love that word. Just to feel someone that's alongside you, that's with you in it. Not even that, I don't even see counseling as like a problem solving, so to speak. I see it as more just a relationship of someone just coming alongside you and saying, I get what you're going through. I understand. There's something to be said for that. And it's definitely something to be said for someone that's not family. You sometimes need someone besides family to talk to, just an objective point of view that you can really be yourself with. But what I encourage everyone is just to find your passion. That's my big thing too, is just to find whatever gets your heart going, whatever you feel like. We all have this little voice inside of us, and some of us are good at hearing it and listening to it and moving forward. And then with that, and other people kind of shut it down and say, oh no, I could never do that. Oh no, I'm not going to be good at that. Right? So we have to start to listen to the voice, to start to really know ourselves well enough to say, no, I can do that, and I'm going to try to do that. I might fail, but guess what? I'm going to take a risk, and that's scary, right? That's scary to take a risk and to get off the safe path in life. But that's where true success comes from, risk-taking.
I'm so grateful for all of the things you shared. There's a couple things I want to touch on. So one of the things you talked about I think is so important is that concept that you're not alone. And this is something that, Tara, I think you're also really great at. So it may not be the focus of your work at the library, although that does come through for the children and families of our community. But certainly, like as a mom, as I shared before, I have felt so supported by your friendship and just who you are as a person. And that same message, that same level of support is exactly what you're talking about in your work, Jaime, and I love it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is, this idea that it's beyond that concept of simply being alongside of someone, right? It's that deep presence. And that was what I was getting at before, Tara, when I said, despite the fact that you might be running around like a mad person, you're present when you're in every place you show up. And that kind of presence, Jaime, I can only imagine when it's one-on-one is very transformative, right? Because it's something that we don't all get from our parents. We don't all get from our significant others. We don't all get from our lives. And so to have that one person really just being 100% present with you is huge.
Oh yes, relationship is the key. A lot of people that come in to see me have limited support networks and feel isolated, and so that's actually, being in that state actually causes a lot of depression and anxiety and a lot of things that we're seeing right now. So they start to just have changes occur in them, positive changes just from the counseling relationship, because we are not meant to live lives alone. We are not meant to live isolated lives. We're meant for connectedness. We're meant for community, right? And so the more people we have around us, the better overall mental health, actually.
Absolutely. I want to share another quote. I was thinking about this earlier. So I think it's from the Dalai Lama, which is I put my beads back on. This is me being the spiritual mompreneur, right? So it's not just balancing the busyness of being mom and running a business, but it's having that sort of spiritual connectedness. But the quote is, the planet does not need more successful people. The planet desperately needs more peacemakers, healers, restorers, storytellers, and lovers of all kinds. And I would argue that all three of our interviews today, you're all in that category. But what I'd really also like to talk about is like, why does it have to be either or? Can't we simply redefine what success is, right? So, if success could be being present in our lives and being present for others, if success could be holding space and creating greater levels of community for those around us, whether in our family, in our neighborhoods, I'd love if you would just share your thoughts and reflections, either one of you, on what that sounds like to you. If that's something you've thought about in your own life, what success truly looks like.
I like that question, and it's good to look at ourselves every day in that way. For me, it's about being versus doing. So we are human beings, right? We're not human doings. So there needs to be balance in every day, that we are not overextending ourselves. Even though that all seems well and good to say yes to all of these things in life, we need to have a good balancing act of when to say no, when to just be, when to turn our phones off, when to just have our own time, our alone time. I get up every morning and just have my own 30 minutes alone without the kids before anything, just of prayer and reflection and just kind of getting myself set for the day. So who are we supposed to be in life, I guess, versus what are we supposed to do? The doing will always come. There's always so many different paths we can take and so many choices. And I think that there's something to be said for that. But when I think about who I am and what I want to give to others in my life, it's just to be love, to show love and kindness. And as I do that with other people, my hope for them is that they will get filled up a little bit to in turn share that with others.
Mm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tara, what about you?
So as you were saying that quote, I was thinking, to some people, success is putting in a 40 or 50 or 60 hour work week, right? Mm-hmm. I've done my job. I've been at my job for this amount of time, but the time is irrelevant, right? Mm-hmm. And how you feel at the end of that week, or I think the real key to success is a couple of things. It's how you feel about the job that you've done that week. And for me, when I look into, it might be a mom who comes into the library and I help her, or, the children who come to my programs. When I look at their eyes and they seem so excited about, either a book that I've shared with them, or they've read something and they're super excited to tell me about, something that they've read, that makes me feel great, and when I'm out in the community and anytime somebody comes up and says something positive about the library, not just me, just the library in general, we're so lucky to have a library that offers so many things. Or, I love when we show up and we walk in and we are greeted by name. Anytime people say things, or I overhear people, talking about some of my programs, that makes me feel great. So I don't care if I spent 10 hours at work or if I spent 40 hours at work. The things that I'm spending my time doing are making a difference in the community, and that makes me feel successful.
Absolutely. And I think what we're seeing here, and I again love your perspective on this, but I think what we're seeing here is such a shift in how to really define success and leadership in this world, right? And so the shift is, we had this thing, over 40 years now, called the Women's Liberation Movement. And so now all of a sudden, you've got this very full workforce of men and women. And so, and I shamelessly will plug Gwen Weber-McLeod's podcast here. She talks about the leadership journey. And one of the things she talks about a lot is the unexpected leader. So not only coming from the perspective of being African American, but also being a woman, right? So what I feel is really happening here is that these definitions are shifting to encompass a world that encompasses the way women work and operate, which is different. It's not to say that, one is better or worse, but it's different. And there's a place for all of it. So one of the things I actually want to talk about here that I thought about because of these conversations is how likely women are, for example, to collaborate, right? Which is different than the world of women that I grew up learning about or hearing about, which is that, it was all about competition. It was about, who could get the better grades and who could do the thing better than the other person, whatever. All I see now is women looking to be stronger and better together through collaboration. And so that is becoming part of the definition of success. The definition of leadership is being able to do those kinds of things. And so before we wrap up today, I would like to chat a little bit about some partnerships that we have developed already. So for those of you who perhaps have watched the interview with Mindy Marquardt and Chris Felice, they are partners and investigators for the Sheriff's Department here in Seneca County. There was a seed planted back then for a little free library in our community, which is like happening now, right?
It's happening.
So on this, small part of Peterman Road in Seneca Falls, where we've experienced some real tragedy in recent months, our Seneca Falls Library has agreed to help, along with our community and a bunch of other people, to be stewards for this little library that will go in for our community, where kids can just come and take a book, and parents can come and take a book. And, and the concept is like take a book, leave a book. But to be truthful, I'm happy just to get more books out in the community. And here's the thing. This all just came about from conversations like this. So community, collaboration, success, leadership, they're all things that you see through this example. And, and one of the things that Jaime and I got together and talked about is the idea that you had, Tara, of having counseling available for all students, right? So how can we do that? How can we do that with limitations to transportation and that sort of thing? And you could do it by having an after-school club. You could do it by having something that kids could really have access to and then take a late bus home. So Jaime and I had our first conversation about what that could possibly look like if there were funding and, whether or not she would be someone who would be available for a group like that. I mean, imagine a Shine Your Light after school club where kids could come and have that level of interaction, have someone like you, Jaime, holding space and being present for them. Yeah. Right? So,
and I have to say too, Melissa, it was just so awesome and such good timing for you to kind of reach out to me, because I have kind of these ideas and these things churning in me, but I'm like, where do I go with this? So I can't figure this out on my own. I need people around me to say, hey, did you think of this? Or what about this? And just through talking, it gets things rolling for us, right? So that's just a prime example of collaboration, talking with other people that have like their heads in the same space as you, and just I need people with ideas around me to say, you could do that. Why couldn't you do that? Because I'm thinking that seems way too hard to even, where do I even start, right? And so it really was just encouraging, just having a conversation with you, just to kind of say, yeah, you could do that. And it just seemed, I don't know, it just helped me feel like I'm not alone in my ideas, right? I could actually make this happen. So I just love that. It was good timing for you to come in my life and kind of give me some encouragement. Then I needed too, because we can start to feel stale when we're just kind of doing the same thing. And I'm someone that needs to be challenged, and I want to push myself more. I don't want to get in my comfort zone ever. I want to do things that are scary, things that are hard. I want to have hard conversations. I want to say, okay, this has never been done before. Well, does that mean we can't ever do it? No, let's do it. And a lot of kids can't come to me because of transportation issues. That is just one of the biggest issues right now. So why don't I go to them, right? What about counseling in someone's home? Why not just go there? And, so trying to like branch out. So it's not just in this is what I do.
So, and part of this is in that level of leadership, asking the question of like, what can be done here, rather than looking at the obstacles, rather than looking at the challenges, what can be done here. So that little free library, you know, again, is a great example, because I felt so overwhelmed by the tragedy we experienced. We lost a little boy who was 3 years old. He was beaten to death. And, you know, I'm not afraid to say that on a podcast now, but a couple of months ago, chatting about it, I mean, I just would completely fall apart. And something like a little free library feels so little, but can be so big, because it gives us the opportunity to work together, to collaborate, to interact, to not have such sheltered lives in our little community over on Peterman Road. So, you know, I just encourage you, if you're watching, to think about what dreams are inside of you, what ideas, what priorities, what passions, you know, what concerns you have in the community that perhaps having a conversation with a friend over coffee could turn up some really beautiful ideas. And I'm happy to be that friend. Call me. I would love to get together and chat, because amazing things can be born in those moments. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for both of you. I'm grateful you came today. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
You're both, again, amazing examples of what it means to really live with passion and purpose. So is Mark. Mark, if you're watching, when you're watching, thank you so much. I do have a couple of gifts that I wanted to share with you, and a little announcement, and then we'll wrap up. So one of my official partners is going to be the Old Country Store down in North Cohocton, which is this cute little store in the middle of nowhere, with lovely family running it, and they have this great connection to the land abroad in Germany. Like, you just need to go there. I'm not going to tell you more about that, but the thing that I'm about to give you is on a postcard, and so I'm going to pass these down, and you can take them. But I'm going to read a story, because the story is not included in there. And so what our guests are getting today is this little green heart pin, which is the green heart of the Finger Lakes.
Cute.
So what I'm doing is I'm going back and I'm gifting all the podcast guests with this little green heart of the Finger Lakes. And here's why. The green heart of the Finger Lakes, which is made by the Old Country Store, celebrates the abundance of natural beauty throughout the Finger Lakes region. The heart, a shape known to represent love and endearment for something or someone. Green, the color of hope, life, renewal, nature, and energy, associated with growth, harmony, and environment. Blue, the color of sky and sea, associated with depth and stability. So, the green heart of the Finger Lakes is a clear representation of the obvious love for our gorgeous Finger Lakes region. The rolling hills harbor 11 glacial lakes formed millions of years ago, creating this unique pattern of fingers spanning the countryside. As man stepped in to better navigate this natural wonder, an unplanned uniqueness began to take shape. Every major highway built to the north, east, and west of the Finger Lakes forms a shape. Step back for a minute as you study a map of the Finger Lakes to plan your next adventure. With a keen eye and an ounce of imagination, you'll quickly recognize the outline of a heart surrounding this wonderful piece of nature. History knows that these were once natural paths beaten by the hooves of deer and the moccasin of our native brothers living here long before our European ancestors arrived. So this is just a symbol of my love, my gratitude, and the reason why this podcast is here, just to bring to you a love for this region, stories of great things that are going on, and amazing people who are living with passion and purpose. So thank you both so much. Thank you, Mark, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.